All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and tonight's show is going to be packed. We're going to talk about everything that has happened in the last 24 hours. We're also going to be, of course, talking about the Russian rocket that hit off of the West Coast. We'll talk about that as well in just a moment. It is a live call-in show. Remember, 224-400-MARF is the number. Again, anything can happen. Be right back. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right. What is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. If you've never been here before, remember you can actually follow along with all of the stories tonight over on our website, marfooglenews.com. Now, when you go over there, it's very easy to navigate. It is all done by thumbnail. You would go to minutes before impact and click on that. Why would they tell us? And then once you get there, you will see that we have taken the time before every single show to add every single article, tweet, video, picture that we show you here today. We give you a bibliography. That way, you know exactly where our stories are coming from. You can source it, you can check my work, and you can go back retrospectively. On top of that, you can go up to the upper right corner on our website and use the search bar to go back through previous shows. If you think that one of our current stories is actually related to one that happened a year ago, 10 years ago, whenever, make sure to use that search bar and let us know. If we missed something, you guys are a part of this show. So again, we'll be doing some things tonight that are interactive. Again, this is a live call-in show, so you can call in at 2244-006273. That's again 2244-00-MARF. And that number is down below if you miss it. And then, of course, it is a little bit of a later show. So make sure, if you're a first-time caller, if you've never called in before and you've been gaining the courage to do it, get it up there and call in tonight. We would love to hear from you. Also on the website, if you do go down past the regular show, the show notes, you will see that there is a yellow bar. That web-only content is the stuff that is too far to one direction for us to cover neutrally or, as neutral as we possibly can. That is the stuff that is basically getting people knocked off. That is some really crazy stuff down there today. So remember, there's a whole nother show down there. Make sure to not miss that. And then over on the right side, if you do want to support us, we are completely independent. We don't have a multi-channel network. We don't have a multi-billion-dollar company behind us. We have the Mafia and, of course, our lovely Foogle fam. We have our D-Live crew and, of course, our YouTube fam. So if you want to support us over here, there are boxes. These are all either affiliates or ways to donate to the show. The top three, definitely, My Patriot Supply is up at the top right. You can get air purification and survival food, things like that. Get your ducks lined up. EMP Shield to protect yourself against EMP. And, of course, NordVPN to protect yourself cyber. Okay, and then let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex. He has been sick for about a week, but he is just trucking through it. What is going on, Dex? How are you doing?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm still hanging in there.
So it always sucks to be sick. Again, it's been over a week, so I'm glad that you're here with us, and let's just take it, I guess, one day at a time. And then Red Pilled, thank you, says, thanks for everything, Adam and Dex. I missed you yesterday. I believe it was yesterday's show that you did that. Thank you so much for your kind support. Appreciate you guys supporting independent. Make sure to respect the mods if they do end up doing something down there that, say if they do end up banning you, remember that they can accidentally do, the chat goes so fast that they can accidentally hit the wrong person every once in a while. But again, too, you might violate, a simple thing like if you talk badly about other creators and it's nothing personal, they're going to mute you for 5 minutes and then tell you why they muted you. Again, that's just some simple rules. Don't be offended if it happens. Again, nobody takes it personally. It's done every time. So just remember that when you're in the chat. We have anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 people in chat every time, so it gets crazy. Thank your mods. They are making it a really peaceful and awesome, positive place down there. B. Taus, thank you so much for your early support of the show. Popping in with a $5 super chat. Appreciate that. Let's get right into the news. We have, of course, 4 bathers killed and over 20 injured in spat of deadly piranha attacks. This is like 2022. If this is how 2022 is going to start, we're essentially in the next B movie. Not trying to be negative, and of course, I'm going to be negative. 2022, in my mind, is not going to be better, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but at the same time, I think that people should realize that I believe that most people know it's actually going to get worse before it gets better, and it can always get worse. That's the thing. Like, there is a good part of being positive, and I think you should, no matter how bad it gets, keep your mind and your head up and spiritually be there. But you should also be prepared and know what's coming around the corner. We obviously have some weird things going on. I feel that the last couple days of news, which we're going to cover a couple of pieces here, it seems to me like there's a lot of fishy stuff going on, especially with, some of the stories that are coming out, why and when they're coming out. And then, of course, stories that have happened in the last week, we probably won't know about until either a year later, 10 years later, or, ever, until they declassify things. Right now, we have multiple hot points around the planet that are dealing with conflict, everything else. And then, of course, we have things like this. Piranha attacks, which, you don't really hear about this other than in bad B movies. It says 4 bathers have been killed and 20 people injured in a spat of ferocious piranha attacks, causing alarm in Paraguay. A 22-year-old man died after he was badly bitten by the predators as he swam in the Paraguay River south of the capital Asunción. It says at Itia Entremada on January 2nd. His family saw him disappear from view and contacted the police, leading the search that lasted 45 minutes before his badly bitten body was found. It is unusual for piranhas to be so aggressive, and yet there have been numerous attacks in the region. A 49-year-old man was also perished in the Paraguay River in the town of Puerto Rosario, with his body found with bite wounds after he was reported missing. So one thing that I heard, or at least I saw on Twitter, is that a scientist chimed in and said that this is actually very odd. And we all think of piranhas as the kind of monsters in the movies. And of course, there's been horror movies that are in the same spirit of Jaws made about piranhas. I think one of them is called Piranhas. And they're nightmarish. They're smaller fish with these just huge jaws full of just huge sharp teeth. And they eat meat. In fact, some people have these as pets, and they feed live animals to them for fun. Like, these things are pretty savage. But when you feed like pets into there, that's because they're kind of trained to do that, and then that's their only food source. And of course, they're going to do what they do. But to attack a human, they were saying that this is very odd, and that they felt like in the last couple of years they've seen more animals doing odd behaviors than in their entire career, which they said 37 years. I thought that was pretty, at least I feel like that too. Over the last 5 years, we've seen all of these weird kind of attacks and weird animal behavior as far as the die-offs. All of the animals, especially the ones that have a magnetic compass, natural instincts, and as far as like hammerhead sharks, for instance, use their magnetic senses to migrate and move around. Also to detect different predators and different prey. And it's like we see all of these animals doing odd things. Now, how would you guys explain this? Tell me in the comments below what you think is affecting all of the animals, or do you think that there is nothing affecting the animals? Do you think that it's just normal? I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below. Remember, those comments actually help, so please make sure to comment, even if you're just saying hi. I try to read as many as I can. Again, there were 2 more people that were taken in the Tibuquary River via Villa, Florida, in Misiones, and their bodies were found with piranha bites. It says there have also been many other reports of swimmers being bitten, with more than 7 reported just on New Year's Day on the beach of Bella Vista Swimming Club in Itapua, I think that is how it's said. So yeah, they're freaky little freaky little fish, and obviously this doesn't look that bad or menacing. But when you see them with their teeth out and when they're chomping, the thing is they work in swarms. So if you have 200 of them with those little mouths biting you, it can quickly cause you not to be here anymore. What do you think about that? It even says in the end, it says, piranhas normally move around in groups, and it is the male piranha that normally attacks to protect their young, while the bites are underwater, with the predator not jumping as often shown in terror films. So that's just a myth. They stay underwater and they do that. They don't jump out and grab you. Of course, that adds definitely for some scare factor there. And then we have the Maxwell case. A lot of folks are talking about this right now because just a ton of debate about this, if it's going the ways that people want it to. It says Maxwell judge to consider new trial over juror comments. I mean, gosh. It says the judge in the Maxwell's trafficking trial asked prosecutors and defense lawyers to brief her on whether a new trial is needed over press comments made by a juror. U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan issued an order Wednesday, January 5th, after Maxwell's lawyers told her earlier that they would seek a new trial because the juror failed to disclose a possible bias against her. It says the jurors told reporters that he disclosed to the other members of the jury during deliberations that he was a victim of this kind of abuse, and further described his memory of those events. Maxwell lawyer Christian Everdell wrote in a letter to the judge. If they were a victim of this, of course, in the court's eyes, they could look at that as that they would automatically be biased and go against this. I don't see how any 12 jurors, no matter who they pick, would not find this woman guilty. But even if she was just hanging out with the guy for more than a month, knowing what EpiPen did, how in the hell would any jury not just say automatic guilty to every last one of those charges, regardless of bias or regardless of how much they knew? Once you went through that trial and they put through all of that evidence, how would you not find them guilty? This isn't like Rittenhouse. This is something that I want to say everybody agrees on. You don't find that very often. So pretty crazy. If you do want to call in, 224-400-MARF, remember, first-time caller, get up in here. I'd love to hear from some new people and meet you. According to the juror, his disclosure influenced the deliberations and convinced other members of the jury to convict Miss Maxwell. Okay. Yeah, I would think that pretty much everybody was on the same boat anyways, but they are going to look for a loophole, and they're going to try to get this a new trial. Prosecutors had earlier asked Miss Nathan to investigate the jurors' comments, and Miss Nathan, in her order, also asked both sides to provide written arguments on, quote, whether an inquiry of some kind is permitted and or required, and if so, the nature of such an inquiry. The judge did grant the government's request to offer a court-appointed lawyer to the juror. Pretty, what do you guys think? Do you think that, let's do, this is a good one to do it on. Okay, so we're going to make a multi-choice thing here. And make sure, put it in the comments too, if you have an answer for this. Do you think, and I think that the first choice, one, do you think that everything is going to go as it is, and that she's going to be get the charges, everything else? Two, do you think that something mystical or magical is going to happen and she will get a new trial? 3, do you think that something is physically going to happen to Miss Maxwell before she sees a day in jail? Or 4, other. And then you can, of course, put whatever you think is going to happen there. Airborne Fido, says Curious George. We can't say what we think. Best News Reader, what's going on? If they try to do this, people, Dead 3, what's going on? I want to see what they do. Let's see here. Several crazy things here. Yeah, that's a pretty good... Wow. So, okay, so you'll probably see here in a second, there's a ton of 3s. So, by the way, just to remind you what 3 was something is going to physically happen to Miss Maxwell. That is crazy. Somebody said, be on another island. Wait a second. Who was that? That was a good one. We'll be on another island with what's-his-face? Is that what it said? Yeah. Ghislaine didn't take herself out, in other words, right? Or is that too soon? 3 would be too obvious. By the way, Carol Ann Shepard, they don't care. Look at what happened with EpiPen. Look what happened with Julian Assange. Look what happened with, what's his face? McAfee or McAfee. He said that they were going to try to find him and they were going to take him out. Like he said something the day before it happened. He thought that he was being followed and he thought that people were trying to take him out. And then all of a sudden, I'm not saying that's what happened, but again, if the whole it would be too obvious thing, they can make it. I mean, if it's just like there's physical proof that it's an accident or something else, well, I mean, they can make something out of nothing. They can make the narrative. That's the thing. We're dealing with the highest level stuff. Think about what we have found out from the JFK stuff. Everything that's been released to this day. In fact, I just watched an extra piece on this with Oliver Stone on Joe Rogan, and that was incredibly interesting. There was stuff that I actually didn't know, and I've looked pretty good into it, and I thought I had a pretty good grip on it. But I heard some stuff that is now considered fact after all of this released declassified stuff. It's like something like that. They did some stuff that was just so obvious and right in front of people's faces, like the autopsy stuff that they did and just everything. You're right. They don't care. The other side gets away with summer love. And then somebody said something about Cappy. Yeah. Obvious is obvious. And then his last video, that was creepy. God is the highest power. Bless him wherever he is. God is the highest power, says Scribe22. Yvonne, what's going on? Says, hey, y'all. New identity face reconstruction. Adios. MEM. One of the options should have been witness protection program. That sounds like it would make a lot of sense. Well, it seems like pretty much everybody thinks, and we'll see, watch. We'll wait a couple months if we even need that much time and see if anything happens mysteriously or she, gets put on a certain kind of watch. And then this is really fishy. So the out of control rocket. Now, if you followed yesterday's show and if you were here for yesterday's show live, I was actually reporting that it had already landed, and many of us thought that that's what happened. And I believe there's still debate whether at that point, if it was actually still up in the air. But many sources confirm. Now, Dex, when you're done, you can pop in at any point. I know that you're probably on the phone with a caller, but I would like to grab you in here because of our conversations about this. Now, with this whole out-of-control Russian thing, we were, during the live show, Dex and all of us found out. In fact, from the start of the show to the middle of the show, we started getting comments, and then Dex looked into it, and we found out that it was not landed yet, and that was
That's correct.
The show. So, Dex, remember, we all of a sudden found out that this thing hadn't landed. It was still being tracked, and it was flying over. And at that point, at that show, the next time around, it was actually going to fly right over Washington, D.C. One thing that I watched all night was that it went up in altitude, and now there are actual pieces, including, I don't know if this one says it. Does this article show that they suggested that it got pulled back up into atmosphere? Yes. It says. Yeah. It says from there, the rocket, or what left of it, after burning and breaking up in the atmosphere from re-entry, where was that? It just showed me. It says the rocket tumbled back to Earth yesterday, crashing into the Pacific Ocean just minutes before a possible impact could have occurred in Mexico, United States, or Canada. The Percy upper stage rocket, which carried a dummy payload into space as part of Russia's Angara A5 rocket test, made an uncontrolled re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere, according to the 18th Space Control Squadron from the U.S. Space Force. From there, the rocket, or what left of it, was burning and breaking up in the atmosphere. From re-entry, would have crashed into the open water of the Pacific Ocean. And then it says, I just saw it here. Where the heck is that? That it was basically, they say that it was being pulled back into space. That was their reasoning. Let's see here. I think I would have to, I think it was livescience.com. Maybe it wasn't on this one. I have some other weird things about this too, like the name per se. And then there's actually one that teams up. Somebody sent me on Twitter. I'll show you here in a second. But Dex, wasn't this strange? I mean, you watched this as well.
Yeah, it seemed like as it would go in certain directions on Earth, it was going higher in altitude. Anywhere, I think during our show, we watched it go from a low of like 80 kilometers to a high of like 96 kilometers. And then, of course, it went back down. I think by the time you did the show on the news channel, it was down in the 70s. And then it went back up again after that, right? I don't know how high it went. I don't know if it was obviously it was averaging going lower because it eventually hit the ground, right, or hit the ocean. So it did fall, but it was really odd that it was going up and down, up and down. And I don't know, maybe a physicist out there can explain, like, looping around an orbital object, and maybe if it's an oval loop or something, it has a different altitude at different ends of the orbit. That's the only thing I could come up with, other than the fact that maybe it was actually trying to climb an altitude.
Okay, well, and here's one of the problems with that. So I just want to put this in perspective. Dave, my buddy, did the math on this. So let's see here. Let's go to DuckDuck. So just to put this into perspective, let's go to DuckDuckGo and how high is Everest? Now remember, it went from 80 kilometers to 94 kilometers during the show. Let's see. How high is Everest? Okay, so here, let's close that. Wait. Oh, no. Back here. Okay. Mount Everest is Earth's highest mountain, and its elevation 8,848.86 meters. So 3 times 3, so it's over 24,000 feet. To put that into perspective, 14 kilometers, Dave did the math, and I may be wrong, and Dex maybe double check this, but he said it was about 50,000 feet that it went back up. That would be, if that's true, climbing 2 Mount Everests up. And that's, again, was pretty accurate. So what in the hell happened there?
I don't think their altitude tracker is going to have anything to do with the land below. I think it's because it's a space-based object. It's based on sea level because it's irrelevant. It's not like a plane, which would have a relative altitude in addition to a regular altitude, right? Or a non-relative altitude. So I don't think when it's tracking like that, it's really changing over because the ground below. And by the way, when we saw it go up, it was going over an ocean. It was, heading down towards the South Pole. So it wasn't overland, and it was going up to 94, 95 when we were watching it in the show. So that just leads me to believe it was moving up, not the ground below or was changing, or that the way they track the altitude has anything to do with the ground beneath it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and that was the everybody was like, no, it's because it's over a different kind of land or this. I just don't frankly believe that. And again, if you do, that's fine. But I thought it was very fishy. What does that sound like? That's an object going like this, okay? And it keeps going around the planet, and it's going like this. What also does this? Oh, a glider. Now, I don't know if that's possible, but that would mean that this thing went around the planet several times, and then just coincidentally, it happened to land just short of the Pacific, in the Pacific Ocean, and we don't exactly have a specific, but here's the craziest thing. So, and I don't know if this is just because of how the tracker works. And I don't know if it will still be here, but let me go to this. This is what it showed on the thing as the end point, right? So let's see if it's still there. I don't know. Maybe it's changed. So let's see. It showed... yeah, look, it shows this. And then other articles said that it may have, if it did hit, it would have hit in... what do you call it? What in the heck do you call that? It would have hit somebody's roof, but it would have been so small it wouldn't have damaged it. Now it shows like Lakewood or whatever as part of that. And at first I was thinking like, this is Washington. Maybe it was just showing me that I'm in Washington, but it's nowhere near me. So that's why I was like, huh. So either way, if it landed off of the West Coast here, that's what's kind of weird about this, is that this would be a major target. Anywhere on that West Coast would have been a major target. Now we know that the Chinese were very, very proud of their fractional orbital bombardment system, but they didn't tell us beforehand. So we might find out that this was actually why the Russians were successful. They were celebrating this. Everybody reported it as a failure. I don't think it was a failure. I don't think it was a failure. I think that this was a test. And I think that they're trying to keep this under wraps. It doesn't make any sense. They loaded a dummy payload. It was out of control, yet it did a perfect descent and landed just short of the Pacific Northwest. That's weird. Here's the thing. We'll never truly know. Like there's so many things that happen beyond civilian, at the other levels of military and high ranking. It's like, I would love to know, even if somebody wants to tell me just privately, if they know exactly what really happened, if you're hiring, I promise, if you don't want it to be told, I will not tell. I want to know, because something was very strange about this. Everybody thought it was very fishy, and it was super weird. I told my mother-in-law about it. She said, well, why haven't I heard about this? It's not anywhere. And I said, it is. There's ones before it, and as it entered the atmosphere, but then there was nothing. And there was nothing until after it had already supposedly hit, right? And then they said, they quoted all the same things. Why was there not... I don't know. This just seems to me like something was a little bit off. This was an object that went around several times around Earth and then just perfectly landed right there. How did they know in the first place when it first entered? Why did we question if it was going to hit the U.S.? It's just weird. They didn't know the trajectory until after all of that. They had to track it as it came in, because then a million other things can change. I don't know. So, what do you guys think? Do you think it was weird? I would love to hear from you. They did say that it was, it said NORAD, short for North American Aerospace Defense Command, marked the tumbling rocket and payload as 50505. Various websites such as SatFlare, N2YO.com, and Aerospace Corporation provided tracking maps and forecasts of the doomed rocket. It says this is not the first time an out-of-control rocket threatened the United States. In May, the Long March 5 main stage tumbled back to Earth in an uncontrolled manner, Well, much of the rocket stage burned up on re-entry. Some parts did survive re-entry and impacted Earth near the Maldives in the Indian Ocean. If the rocket were to create damage in another country, there are international treaties in place that would make it the launching country potentially liable for damages. That happened in 1978 when a Soviet reconnaissance satellite, Cosmos 954, made an uncontrolled re-entry into Earth's atmosphere over Canada. Debris eventually crashed into Canada's Northwest Territories, depositing toxic waste into the soil at the crash site. What is also weird is somebody commented, and I tweeted this. I thought this was pretty odd. This was a comment. Now it is much longer than 47 minutes ago. It says, "It's not good. We got splashed by some substance in Alberta, and it's eating our skin." I thought their whole icon was weird over here, but I don't know what that means. But I did. I thought that was an interesting comment. It definitely piqued my interest. Do you guys know if there was anything that happened in Alberta, Canada? It just reminded me of that previous instance over Canada, where, of course, they had toxic stuff going on.
And the just a heads up on the numeration of that object 50505. That number is a sequential number that's assigned by NORAD, and like you can go look up 50504, and I think it's a UK object. So I think every object they track, once they start tracking it, they assign that a numeric serial number, and it's just sequentially the next number. So the next number will be 50506. At least that's the NORAD's explanation of it.
Huh. Well, we've also seen things that would end up like it's sequential, but then it ends up having way more meaning for anybody that's into...
I know a lot of people were looking into the meaning, and there may be a lot more behind it. I was just saying that's what they're explaining it as, NORAD.
Well, no, then it's cut and dry. But you'll see the folks that are into numerology say that that's all part of the system, that it was on purpose that way. Either way, it was super, super weird as far as the whole situation, why they waited so many hours. It was like they were watching, like they were all waiting for this thing to hit. Just seemed to me like it was pretty weird. And then, and coinciding, just all these weird sightings popped up on all over the place as far as go to Twitter and look up UFO sightings. I thought that was interesting. And then electronic warfare technology trends. It says the demand for electronic warfare, or EW products, will be driven by its universal application. There will be a significant spending push in EW technologies, heavily driven by Russian capabilities and increased Chinese aggression. It's listed below are the technology trends impacting the electronic warfare theme as identified by global data. It says active protection system proliferation. The means of active protection of platforms being proliferated more widely because of the increased threat of guided and fire and forget munitions in the peer-to-peer context. Artificial intelligence, it says the U.S. Army is trying to integrate AI tools into its electronic warfare capabilities so that EW systems can operate in the dense radio frequency environment of the battlefield. This was interesting to me. March 2019, the country signed an agreement worth $982 million with Northrop Grumman to acquire state-of-the-art cyber electromagnetic activities capabilities for the U.S. Army. The contract will support research and development for cyber and electronic warfare, integration, testing, performance verification, technical support, cybersecurity, and laboratory demonstrations. Essentially, they are preparing for basically every country is preparing for a massive electronic warfare battle. This next conflict is going to be bonkers. I've always said that as far as it's not going to look like our traditional, WW2 Normandy invasion. This is going to be dealing with AI, drones, cyber attacks, grid down scenarios. A lot of this is going to be very strategical. And I mean our future calamity that it will come at some point. If it doesn't happen tomorrow, it will happen at some point. There's no way the whole planet is all going to just get along and be peachy keen. There's too many countries that absolutely despise the U.S. Now, As far as the U.S., if you're in Europe, well, that's because they despise the U.S. You're our allies. Australia, Europe, all of these other places that are our allies, Japan, that puts all of you in the crosshairs. It's basically these two sides. And the other side has been increasingly just preparing nonstop for a huge conflict. We just covered 2 nights ago that they just agreed that they did not want a nuclear exchange. What does that mean? Seems to me like they are actually coming to the table and saying, hey, if we do go to conflict, we need to not nuke each other. It's just going to ruin it for everybody. They're basically agreeing to do all of these other smaller, arms and try to play fair, I guess. Right? They're going in the boxing ring and no punches to the back of the head. This piece says directed energy weapons. Remember, people got kicked off the internet for talking about this just a few years ago. Just two and a half, 3 years ago, people were getting booted off of this platform and others because they talked about directed energy. It was fake. It wasn't existent. It was science fiction, or it was something that wasn't weaponized. It wasn't like this. People talked about this. Remember, this was talked about for 10 years. But who knows? Probably more, 20 years. By the internet. And again, it's the internet. I heard it on the internet. It must be true. What's weird is a lot of the things that thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people talked about, it seems to me the pattern is the more that something doesn't go away and it just keeps traction over years, the more likely it is to be true. That's why, a lot of people talk about it. Go ahead.
Well, what's crazy is it was Reagan's era when we were talking about building this into space, which I think was called Star Wars or something like that. That project, while it proclaimed to not be funded, the whole notion that they were going to build that capability in space back then meant they had the capability to do it back then. They just needed the funding to do it. They probably have the funding. They probably just didn't do it publicly. But the other thing in this, it says here about they put these in airborne platforms. The IS country has put them in an airborne platform. And I know we talk quite often about the mysterious ships that have burnt. The one thing it leads me to think is that all of those happen on water, or at least at port, right? And when you're at port, you can actually be in an aircraft and at a distance and have a direct line to that, right? Sort of like you would think from space. Where it may be a lot difficult to do something inland because you could have mountains or other things in it, and you'd have to literally fly over someone else's territory. But you could literally not be in their territory and flying and reach these ports or these water locations where these ships have burnt. And
we've had several of those weird events happen. And like I mentioned last night, as far as Beirut and Tianjin and other places where there was just these super weird explosions. China in general in the last year had those in a matter of months. In a matter of 2 months, they had 10 giant explosions that were not covered by world news. And these explosions weren't just like front of the building blowing out. They were gigantic, just crazy stuff where cars had the whole sides of them peeled away like it was a mini nuke, and it was very specific. It was like once the damage stopped, it was a radius. Think about that. If they have the stuff that we don't know, if you actually somewhat believe kind of what Bob Lazar and some of these others say, if you do believe in any of that, just think about that. Think about the weirdness if we did have some sort of crazy technology that is way, way beyond it. I'm not talking about 30 years, but 1,000 years. Why would they hide that? You almost want to think like if we did have gravity, anti-gravity technology or some sort of, ultimate renewable energy in the U.S. and they kept it completely secret, why would that be? And would they tell us about it, or would they make money and choose whatever system works best for the people that are in charge? Think about it. It would be a lot harder to kind of enslave people if everyone was the same and everyone had the same stuff. I don't know. I think that they were set on the old system, and then somehow, people came up with this new technologies. Do you think that world governments have technology that's so far beyond our mind's eye that, anything that we could not even think about? Do you think that exists, or do you think we are currently where they say we are? I'm very curious as to what some of the long-time military members would say on this. I bet you they've seen top secret stuff that, they can't obviously talk about, but what do you think? Where do you think we're at? And then multi-mode seekers, that's a weird one. And then loitering munitions. It says loitering munitions have come of age and are a significant factor in EW and command and control now. The ability to deploy localized precision munitions, particularly in the absence of valuable and vulnerable platforms in range, is changing the battlefield dynamic in much the same way as an unmanned aerial vehicle proliferation or anti-tank guided missile proliferation. It says an interesting development is the apparent loitering surface-to-air missile known as the 358 missile. That, of course, I ran to the store created. So they have, we know, and this, again, unmanned platform developments. This is what I think about when I think of the containers. If they had multiple people from across the planet manning containers where the roof just lifted up and either did missiles, drone launchers, any number of things, artillery, or even the worst case scenario, ICBMs. Lots of crazy stuff out there, and this is where our technology is now at, or at least this is where publicly it is, at the same time as all of this conflict. I'm going to head over and see what we have. We do have a first-time caller. Remember, if you do want to call in, 224400-MARF. That is, again, 224400-6273. And then you'll want to press option 4 to get through to Dex. And then Travis wants to talk about what's next to Venus and has a picture, apparently. So we'll get him on. Real quick, I do want to remind you, if you have not already, make sure to go over and check out EMP Shield. They can actually protect against these kind of cyber events. In fact, they can protect you against all 3 phases of an EMP. We've been warning people about this for now years, and I hope that people end up doing their research on it, because once you do, you will see that the U.S. government is preparing for this, but they're forgetting to do any kind of protection for civilians. So, again, if they're doing it, I would rather do it myself. Again, I would like to have the same protection they do. You can. EMP Shield is contracted with agencies like DOD, DHS, and of course on the Dempster team protecting the Texas grid. You can protect your home, your car, your generator, or any other number of devices they make for different things with this device. Again, it can protect you against CMEs as well. marfugglenews.com/EMP. Again, that gives you $50 off, and it helps our channel. Again, this is how we can support ourselves when in lieu of all of the other stuff that we should get as creators doesn't pan out. So thank you guys, everybody that goes through us. Again, I think it helps everybody. You get a discount, and we can help support ourselves. All right, and then let's go to Travis. Travis is on the phone, and he's got some photos. I'll load the photos, Dex, if we want to get him in. And Travis is calling from Illinois.
Good evening, Marf.
What is going on, Travis? How are you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Pretty cold here in Illinois.
Yeah, well, I bet you're much colder than us. How cold is it out there?
With the wind chill, I think it's like minus 10 or 15 or something.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's nice meeting you. Again, so what are we looking at here?
Nice to meet you too. I'm a big fan of your show. Your show is great, man. You get a lot of information out to people who are trying to pay attention to what is real. So there you're looking at Venus and the blue planet. Now, up above the Venus there, is a blue planet, probably called Nibiru. And there on the other side is the red comet. And that has been here since before May of 2015 when I started taking pictures of it. It's been around the sun 3 times now, and they're going around with Venus, the 2 of them. There may be more objects there that I can't see. I don't have $1 million telescopes.
So the oval shape, that is the part of the planet that is lit up, and then the red part, that is a comet, you say?
Definitely. That is a comet. That is a big comet. But I think it's being hidden by the stuff that they spray. You see, the spectrum runs from blue to red for our eyes. And it's crisscrossed in the middle, left brain, right brain type of deal. That's why we don't see it in broad daylight. And some people get pictures of it, and I can tell which ones are real and which ones are fake because I know where they're at.
Now, what is the divot in the very top of the dome here on this one with the...
Yeah, that's the center of the telescope. That's the center of a refractor telescope. It's zoomed in on Venus so far that Venus is out of focus and the comet is in focus. When you go to zoom in on Venus with binoculars, they'll both become visible. And when they come out the other side and become morning objects, I'm pretty sure they'll be on the bottom of Venus at that point. So they'll be at the south in the east sky in the morning before dawn.
Now, does this red, the red comet, now have you witnessed this move as far as...
Oh, yeah. When it came into the solar system, and I happened to be watching in May of 2015, while literally every other astronomer was watching the Mars rover supposedly run around in the dirt, I was watching the west sky in May of 2015, and it was just after dark, and I caught sight of the blue planet. About a week later, I caught sight of the red one through a camera through the telescope, and I witnessed an interaction between Venus and the red comet, where there were giant electrical sparks going from the red comet to Venus to the surface of it, and there were also bright flashes all over the face of it where impacts were probably occurring. It was nuts. I freaked out, ran in the house, hooked it to my HDTV, looked at it closer. I immediately knew what they were because of the Hopi Indians account of it. We know what they are. They're the red and blue kachina. They're the wonders from the Bible, from Revelation 12. The red one is named the Destroyer by the Egyptians and by the Celtics later. The blue one never really is mentioned. I mean, it's in the cylinder seals from Samaria as the 10th planet, but most people think that there's one object, when in fact there's 2. I don't know what's happening there other than they're going around and around again with Venus, and they're causing havoc in our fields, in our magnetic fields, in our weather. All them changes, that's what's causing it.
I really, stuff like this really makes me want an actual telescope. You know what I could do, Mark? I could come to where you're at and show you how to look at it, and then you could show the rest of them what is real. I don't make stuff up. I don't have anything other than my honor and my word. I'm poor like everybody else. So how far has this moved, or is this always in the same place?
It's always in the same place in relation to Venus, and it shifts around a bit. The last time I saw them, before they got too close to the sun again, they were offset to the right, top of Venus, and that's from my view in the Midwest here. Everybody's view is going to be at a different angle depending on where you are in latitude. So it may look to be at a different angle from your view. These pictures are flipped around too. At this point, I don't even know the original orientation of it. That picture we're looking at right now is from 2015. And they're still there. All you need is binoculars to see them. They look like Venus has gained 2 moons, when everybody knows who's worth their salt, Venus doesn't have moons. It does now.
Now, is there any chance that could be a flare in the binocular or anything like that?
No. Now, see, okay, in order to have an experiment and to have a hypothesis and to have it be real, reality, truth, you have to be able to repeat it. We all know that. I don't have to explain that to you, but for the viewers, this thing, if you could view it one day, fine, okay, it's a fluke. If you view it for a week, okay, at the second night I was viewing it, I knew by then it wasn't a background star. You get one view one time for 15 minutes, it could be a background star. It could be something stuck on the end of your binoculars or on the mirror of your scope. Anything like that could create, weird pictures. That is a zoomed in picture of Venus with a red comet next to it. It's as simple as that. They are real objects. They're right there with Venus. All anybody needs is binoculars to see them. If you take your binoculars and point it right at Venus and start to zoom in slow, you'll catch the 2 dots. You won't see what you're looking at now in your binoculars. That's zoomed in twice. I zoomed in with my telescope, and then I zoomed in through the eyepiece with a camera. All right? That's how I was able to get such a close-up view. When you look at it through binoculars, it's going to look like 2 little dots, like moons, when they're way bigger than that. Like I say, I think they're playing with our light spectrum, what reaches our eye. If you notice, if there's particles in the air and stuff, lights will start to look red because the blue doesn't make it through the particles. The red is longer, so it does. Yes, that's wormwood. Peace be still. That is wormwood. It's red.
So
right? Because it's probably made out of iron.
What is your thought? If this was real, and if what is the danger? What is the belief that it's coming our way?
No, it's going around and around. We don't understand why it's staying in the inner solar system for 3 passes now. Well, I don't understand that, okay? It's what's happening is it's came in to the inner solar system and has went around now 3 times. Now, this is the 3rd pass it's made. The red comet, the blue planet, and the planet Venus are all going over the top of the sun right now, over the 5th, 6th, and 7th. And if you go back, I've been on other shows, and my guess 2 months ago was January 5th, because I based that guess off of where Venus is. That's probably why the Mayans watched Venus so closely, and it had its own calendar, because they knew it was in relation to the other things that come in and cause these cataclysms.
So do you think
you look at Joshua's long day. Go ahead, sorry.
Do you think that we have a cataclysm coming? Is that your thought?
Oh, yeah. And our governments think that, too. Otherwise, they wouldn't have dug under the ground so far to get away from it. Meanwhile, ramming wedge after wedge after wedge in every faction out here that they've created, be it Democrat, Republican, religious natures, racist natures, anything to drive a wedge into the 2 factions or 10 factions to get them to fight each other, so we don't group up and say, hey, you guys have been screwing us over for too long. What are you hiding? Speaking of the weather weapons, I've seen on other channels, there's guy pays very close attention to the radar systems and stuff, and I've seen giant swirls like fan blades pop up in the radar for a second or two. And there's these little gray circles all over the map from this weather weapon being used either from a plane or from space. But the swaths that it makes across the land is, it's bigger than Florida. All that weather down there by Florida right now, there's a big old swirl going down there. And it's being caused from above. And it pops up on the radar for about a split second at a time. My little one's laughing at me.
Well, so
I had to kiss George.
Well, Travis, thank you for your pictures, and I do know what you're talking about with the radar. Sure. We've had viewers call in and have pictures of really weird patterns, especially around really big events. Like I want to say somebody had shots of around when Katrina happened. There was some weird activity, and same with I can't remember the hurricane name, but it was, or maybe it was Ida. Showed some weird lines across the entire states. They thought it was very weird. Even a meteorologist, a known one, commented on this and said, "Can you send me a copy of this. This is fascinating. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But again, Travis, we're out of time. Is there one more thing you want to say before you go?
The only thing I would say to the listeners is get your binoculars. Don't take my word for it. Don't do it, because I could be lying, right? I'm not a liar. That's why I urge you to go out and look for yourself. Go out there in about 2 or 3 weeks, and Venus will become a morning object now after it gets on the other side of the sun. And it'll be our morning star. And when it pops up and it's still dark, you zoom in and you will see what I'm talking about. And this is probably our last pass. This is going to be their last hoorah. And the whole world is going to be at war with the whole world. And next thing you know, they'll confiscate every bit of gold out of their teeth, out of the chains around their necks, all of it. And we won't say where that's going, but it's going up. But I appreciate you having me on your show, Marf, and I love your show, man. I watch it all the time. Thanks for being you, man.
Well, thank you, Travis. Very, very ominous. Most definitely.
Yeah, I know it sucks. I wish it wasn't true. I wish I was crazy. I wish, part of my family was right. But you know how it goes. People who pull their heads out of the sand and look up, you can't unring a bell. You can't unknow the truth. So if you're one of those people that don't have the courage to know the truth, I just don't buy any binoculars.
All right. Well, thank you, Travis. It was a wonder talking to you. And again, thank you so much for sending the pictures. We will make these available on marfooglenews.com. Travis, that was a first-time caller. Don't be a stranger. Again, it's your first-time call. Don't make it your last. Now, Stephen McMahon says Yahoo found how to register a card to contribute. Thank you. I appreciate that, Stephen. Again, Anna Trejo says, Adam and Dex, much love. Sad news. Kirsten W. Truther died. If you can, recap the last 4 weeks. She mentioned several truths must hit certain nerves. She and Michael Jaco had their own podcast. I will most definitely. Anna Trejo, I'm so sorry to hear that. I will definitely look at the last. Can you please send me links if possible? Anna, if you can, send me links on Twitter. If you can't do Twitter, send them via email. Patricia Bonifant, I believe I did get your email. Thank you. I didn't have time to get anything on the show, but again, I was going to try to read that and see what example you did for AT&T. I just didn't have time with my kids today. And then Barefoot Lass, much love and healing prayers going up to you, Adam and Dex. Love you guys big time. And yeah, I don't think I can't do it on screen, but yeah. Travis, what do you guys think about this? As far as this call, have you seen anything like this? Zippy Moon says, Mrs. Marf, Miss Dex, and Dex J, thank you for sharing your awesome dudes with us. Thank you to all the mods too. That's awesome. Divine 1122, it's an amazing time to be alive. Divine, thank you for always dropping in that positivity into the chat. And then Michelle K says, to do or not to do. That is, and of course, DEW. MRSA1, thank you for gifting 10 Marfia badges out. In fact, MRSA1 just gave a badge to WJS Jen, Love Pugs, Everdays, Tree Hookers, Rapture Girl Now, Laura Griffith, 100% Mo, Queen BTP, and T308, and Hopkinson. That's awesome. Jem, thanks for modding over there. Jammer, wherever you are, thank you. And Naughty Gypsy, Lisa K. Lisa R. Hall missed the show last night. She said that she was going to catch the replay. CJ Blaze is in the house. What is going on? Susan Donahue is in the house. Everybody is in the house right now. T-Man1 says, who died? If there was legitimate new celestial bodies, there would be tons of photos out there. So many amateur astronomers. Everyone has an opinion. I want to get a legit telescope, but unfortunately, legit telescopes are just crazy and expensive. Even if I could just get a simple one, just a really cheapo one, I think it would be fun. Indigenous been here 500 years and be here another 500. That Gen X dude, thank you so much for being here. All Rider, Rebel Snarfle, Look Left. It's nice to see you. Much love, CJ Blaze. Nice to have you guys. CJ, by the way, we have a group text with like Alish, J Stone, and I'm trying to, I think we need a group text with everybody so we can stay in contact. So if somebody wants to start that, please let me know. L. Clifton, thank you. Real, let's see here. Kumagata, Claudette Malaspina says, I got a telescope for Christmas. That's awesome. If somebody has an old one they want to give me and they're in Washington, that would be awesome. Let's see. And then Susan Donahue. Hey, how are you? I hope you're doing good. Hashtag Team Humanity. David Neff, Charles Henderson, and Look Left. Like, it's pretty ominous. And the creepy part is like, the Don't Look Up movie and everything that was going on with that. Russia and China will threaten the peace in 2022. Yeah. It says, as 2021 dragged to an exhausting end, the international strategic outlook remained bleak. It says authoritarian regimes are threatening conflict in Europe, Middle East, and Asia. The key democracies look distracted, internally driven, and unwilling to defend global order they originally designed. It says it wasn't meant to be this way. The formal dissolution of the Soviet Union on the 26th of December 1991 was supposed to usher in an era where liberal democracies would flourish. Instead, 2022 may be the year which democracies operating in rules-based international order will face their toughest test. After several decades where Western military forces focused their efforts on largely unsuccessful counterterrorism and insurgency operations in the Middle East, we face the alarming prospect of a state-on-state conventional conflict in several regional trouble spots. Russia's massive buildup of military forces on the border of Ukraine and Belarus creates the potential for serious conflict during the next few months. A full-scale invasion of Ukraine past the contested eastern provinces would be the most catastrophic, but perhaps least likely outcome. One thing that it says in here that it's crazy is they say that's the least likely. That is viewed by a lot of these experts as the worst and most catastrophic event there, because we are so directly saying that we are going to defend or help defend, and so many other countries are saying that they're going to help defend Ukraine. But again, what happened with Crimea. It says, right, more likely scenarios include Russia overtly moving forces into Ukraine's Donbas region, which has been controlled by Moscow since 2014 invasion, using local proxy forces and covert Russian military. Because that was more of they snuck people in and then all of a sudden held out the weapons and said, get the hell out of here, and kind of slowly moved that line. It says Russian President Vladimir Putin then might seek to establish a land bridge between Donbass and Russian-occupied Crimea, widening a front from which Russia could attack deeper into Ukraine. So what they're suggesting, or what they're talking about here, is if it was an invasion in slow-mo, kind of a one little step at a time, a couple miles here and there, and then extending, and then getting a base to then... I can almost see it like the game of Risk, where the red arrow is just going to dip into Ukraine. It says Putin could also deploy forces into client state Belarus, threatening the Ukrainian city of Kiev from the north, but also putting Russian forces directly on the border with Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia. Of course, in Europe, it says at the stage, the U.S. and NATO have no appetite for a military response. In early December, U.S. President J.B. told Putin in a virtual meeting that, quote, if Russia further invades Ukraine, the United States and our European allies would respond with strong economic measures. So if you physically invade and take over a democracy, it's going to hurt you in the pocket. Would you, most of you, what do you guys think about that? I know I asked before, but what is this current audience? What do you think? Do you think that it should be more than that? I guess who thinks that he should have been a little bit tougher? And I'm not picking on JB. And if whoever the president is, if it was just a blank president, what do you think the actions should be? Not trying to compare this to any any specific one. What do you think any country should do? Do you think they should say, "Hey, we'll come in and tear you a new one," or do you think they should keep it economic? Beyond that, there were vague promises to provide additional defensive material to the Ukrainians and fortify Eastern NATO allies. Putin has largely been given a green light for military operations, and President B has kept a low profile on the issue for weeks. He's actually not said much of anything except for a couple small comments here and there. And people are pressing him on it too. And they won't let him talk long enough for them to get out more than, hey, can I have that breakfast shake, please? And, hey, I'm trying to drink my Ensure here. This month, the U.S., NATO, and Russia will negotiate on demands from Putin that, if agreed, would severely constrain America's capacity to defend Europe and would strengthen the position of Russia's more proximate forces. The U.S. can't accept Putin's demands, but also won't offer more than a token military support to Ukraine. February may be the month when Russian military operations commence. What everyone is saying right now is that this month may be the fire month, or next month in February. We're talking about in the next 2 months, this may all come to a head. That's why I stress to people that you should just be spiritually ready for anything. And I think that most people understand that things can get worse. That's why, this isn't as bad as you think it is. You're still living life somewhat normal. Also want to remind you of last night's coverage of how aggressive and how crazy big the operation is in not only China, but now Russia. They are practicing paratroops type invasions. And we, just so happens, I don't know if you remember this, we covered, the U.S. is now trying to put the funds through to put surface to air missiles all over the country near our critical infrastructure. And they're practicing landing on highways. I don't think you need more than I don't think you need a calculator. You can put 2 and 2 together to figure out what's going on. Dex, Dex, do you have an opinion on this? And I know in a second here, we're going to pop over 224-400 Marf. Do you have an opinion on this? Give us a call. Now, Dex.
Hey, Adam.
So what do you...
What was the question?
So as far as everything that's going on, do you remember how we covered that they're putting in, or they're trying to put in, or they are already started putting surface to air missiles next to our critical infrastructure? Then we covered last night as far as now all of these countries are practicing paratrooping invasions alongside these kind of missions with planes. Isn't it
right? And our Iron Dome that we deployed, was it to Guam? And I'm certain we've got it in other places now. We just tested it out there. Alaska,
we put long-range artillery this last year, and then we put our Iron Dome system in Guam. All along the West Coast, we have seen nighttime drills in the streets of places like L.A., and we're talking about convoys of military vehicles driving through the city. What do you think that is? Seems to me they're preparing for an invasion.
The nighttime is a significant one. It's not just, let's add it to the training. Like we train for all different types of things. They have invested over the last, handful of years now that we've been able to see significantly in nighttime training, significantly. So lights out scenario in the dark, how are they going to, deal with combat, and not just the lights out, but the lights out and the electronics out, like no GPS, no anything, right? So that's been a significant investment in drilling and training on our military side. And they only do that when they expect They do that for something they expect. I know that they would train for, a broad spectrum of anything that could possibly happen, but they've invested so heavily in this that this obviously shows a sign that it's something they expect to actually happen.
Now, they used eminent domain to seize night vision devices. I just want to remind you, this was January of 2020. A lot of the things that were popping off, and this was right after the start of CV, right? We're actually in the middle.
Yeah,
I can't believe it's
there wasn't enough available, so they had to go confiscate. Or like you said, they had to pull them all the orders from all the manufacturers so that nobody could get them at the civilian level. They took all that tech and repurposed it into the military gear.
Now, by the way, this is actually originally from a different one. This one is from Natural, right? But we covered this when it first came out and even talked to one of the distributors. They said that they could not get night vision tubes because the U.S. government had stepped in the middle of his ordering. He owned a Patriot Supply type store, an actual, Army surplus store. So he owned a privately owned business. He could not buy them. And what he was told is that the U.S. government had taken possession of all of them in a quick manner. They used eminent domain. Basically, the U.S. government, if it needs something, it can take your car, it can take your house, if they need it for the purpose of defending the country, right? Why did they need this? And then, of course, the drill that happened last year, we talked about this, where several states were told, like, hey, your GPS may not work at certain periods. We're doing these military tests. And what they're doing is they're trying to navigate without GPS, without power, without light. Now we have dark nighttime training in parts of LA and in other cities in California. Sacramento, I've heard reports, and of course, Redding, California, I heard reports. So it seems to me like they're not only preparing for invasions of like Ukraine, Taiwan, there's a possibility, and people can call it a fearmonger, whatever you want to call it. They are actually practicing for a potential invasion of the U.S. That sounds absurd, but they're going to prepare for it because it is a possibility. Especially when you look at their Navy interactions, what is going on right now, the weird stuff that is happening over the last year. And if you look at the dates that follow in all of this, there's a lot of events where all of a sudden the president's schedule was cleared. They turn around, they do all this. There's been a lot of really crazy things going on behind the scenes, and civilians will never know. So I don't think I think it's pretty safe to assume that we have a lot bigger things on the way. Think about the biggest thing that has happened in the last 21 years is September of 2001. You think that that's the biggest thing that's going to happen to the empire of the United States, let alone Europe or any of the others? We are very far away from WW2. And what's funny is it's not even been that long. WW2, there are still folks alive that served in WW2. They're dying by the hundreds a day because they are all in their 80s, 90s, and 100s. But we're still close to that. It's really quite amazing that people think that we're never going to get into another world conflict, and the people, especially that live in the U.S., it's burnt into our brain that we're the biggest, the best, and the baddest, so nobody will ever step foot here. The things that held back other countries from invading here, like the actual geographical kind of limitations, those have all been addressed, including even making artificial islands in a closer point to our United States with a refueling point, which again, before it was such a far distance, it was actually physically hard to invade unless you had the largest navy ever. Oh, wait. They now have the largest navy ever. But even with their largest navy ever, is that enough to get as much troops as they need for an invasion like this? No. So they turn to every commercial vehicle as far as ferries, any kind of commercial vehicle for the last couple of years. And this really shows you what their plans are. If you are to build a ferry, if you're a commercial company in China, you have to build a military drop gate on your ferry for military purposes. If you have a giant fishing vessel, you need to make a huge drop gate for military vessels. or for military vehicles. They're planning not only for Taiwan, they're planning for us. And if people don't think that, then I would say look at what their actions are. Now they're banning all American English-speaking schools in China. Now they are banning effeminate men. They are putting wartime propaganda all over their country. They're sending messages to the phone to join the military every 2 seconds to the men in that age range. It's basically kind of like what we did, like, join the army, Uncle Sam wants you. Only China's like, Uncle Xi is going to kick your ass if you don't go do something. This is crazy, crazy times we live in, and it's only going to get crazier. And then we have Taiwan troops simulate urban warfare with China. I mean, what a scary thought. Think about China invading your actual city, and these people literally have to worry about this. And even if you don't think they're coming here, it sounds like they pretty much accept they will take Taiwan. It says Taiwanese soldiers take part in a simulated urban battle to prepare for an invasion by China. Can you believe that this is in the news right now? We are talking about 2 invasions of places in our current time. Invasions of 2 democracies. Democratic Taiwan lives under constant threat of an invasion by authoritarian China, which claims the self-ruled island as part of its territory to be seized one day by force if necessary. Beijing has ramped up military drills and diplomatic pressure on Taiwan since President Tsai Ing-wen came to power in 2016, as she regards the island as a sovereign nation. On Thursday, soldiers from 2 platoons faced off in a simulated battle, firing at each other from houses and sandbag barricades as tanks rolled down a street in a mock-up town complete with signs for pharmacies and beer brands. It says urban warfare has become an increasingly key training subject for the military. Not only there, but here. This is something that we've been doing for the last 4 years now. Any future battle to protect Taiwan will be an urban warfare. That was Kiwi Yang, an instructor of Army Infantry School, noting most of Taiwan's 23 million people live in cities. It's crazy to think that all of Taiwan is only 23 million. That's a lot of people. But that's equivalent to, say, 2 of our large states, right? The Chinese troops' battle plans will be invading and landing firstly from coastal towns, then fighting will progress into more populated residential and commercial areas, and lastly push into mountainous villages, he added. With mountain ranges, changeable weather, and limited beach landings, invading Taiwan would be a Herculean challenge for any military. Remember, Vietnam had a similar scenario where it was like they had the home kind of advantage. I wonder if it's going to be as hard as they say to do this. Lisa K23, thank you. I appreciate that. It says, great show. Moxie71, Meat Puppet 007. Adam, what about the military buying silencers? That is a good one. Dex, can you try to see if you can find the articles about the military buying silencers, if we can pop that up? What do you think? Let me know. If I want to say it might have, don't quote me. It might have been Military Times, or Forbes. China denies U.S. report it's rapidly growing its nuclear arms. Remember, we actually talked about this before. One of our Fugel fan members, who actually retired since this happened, was active duty as of January of last year. Was like on, it was like 18th year or something, and was going to retire, and said that they were heavily concerned about them not only growing their nuclear arms, but doing it incredibly fast, way beyond what anyone thought was even possible. And then we reported not too long after that. Then, of course, they said that they were planning on 300 different silos. It says a senior Chinese arms control officer denied Tuesday that his government is rapidly expanding its nuclear arsenal, though he said it's taking steps to modernize its nuclear forces. Fu Kong, Director General of the Foreign Ministry's Arms Control Department, said China is working to ensure its nuclear deterrent meets the minimum level necessary for national defense. On the assertions made by U.S. officials that China is expanding dramatically its nuclear capabilities, first let me say that this is untrue, he said at the briefing in Beijing. The briefing was held a day after China, the U.S., Russia, Great Britain, and France issued a joint statement on preventing nuclear war or on an arms race. The statement was supposed to be timed to the start of a global conference on disarmament at the UN, but the meeting has been postponed because of a surge in the Civ. It says the U.S. Defense Department said in a report in November that China is expanding its nuclear force faster than previously predicted and could have more than 1,000 warheads by 2030. The U.S. has 3,750. If somebody can find the clip of us being able to, we can quote our sources on this. Said that was probably triple of what it was, and soon that information would come out. And now it's saying 1,000. The U.S. has also raised concern about an analyst reports based on satellite imagery that China is building missile silos in its northwestern desert and its test of hypersonic missiles last summer. Fu would not confirm the missile silos, but said the size of China's nuclear force should not be estimated based on the satellite photos. He said China does not need to take steps to make sure its nuclear force is sufficient in light of a changing security environment in Asia. He cited U.S. talk of deploying intermediate-range non-nuclear missiles in the region. India also has nuclear weapons, as does its neighbor, Pakistan. FU stuck by the Chinese position that it would not join nuclear arms reduction talks between the U.S. and Russia, as the American side is pushing for. He called on both to reduce their arsenal, by far the largest in the world. It says, quote, "We'll be happy to join if they have reduced to our level," he said, adding that the two superpowers need to drastically reduce their nuclear capabilities to level comparable to the level of China, and for that matter, to the level of France and the UK, so that the other nuclear states can join in on this process. Basically saying we need to go to whoever has the lowest and then all have that. What does it matter? Like, if you have 100, wouldn't that be too many? And if you have one that's big enough, like the Tsar Bomba 2, doesn't matter if you have 100 or one. That one could do just absolute insane damage.
Adam, I added the suppressor article to the website. People can go find it there, and we're at 30.
30 minutes or 30 seconds?
30 minutes.
Okay, let's get Joe on. And while we're reminding again, if you guys want to get your ducks lined up, if you want to get certain things that help you prepare for any kind of disaster, whether that be a hurricane or, of course, any kind of bad thing happening, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. There you will find that they have short and long-term survival food, of course, air purification. You can get, of course, water purification, one of the most important tools in any prepper's bag, of course. And then again, the food, especially long-term survival food, is going up at record rates. So please make sure to get it before it just absolutely skyrockets. Again, the price has been going up and up and up. Discounts have actually been going down, so make sure to get in there. We still have, I believe, $100 off on 2 months supply, so make sure to get over there and use that, marfooglenews.com/prep. And then Zippy Moons, thank you again for your support. I appreciate that. Let's get Joe on the phone. And it looks like we've got a conversation about Washington State Meeting Board of Health. What's going on? Joe, first-time caller.
Hey, Mark.
How are you doing?
I'm all right. I've actually tried calling in for a couple of years, man, but never been able to really get through, so that's kind of cool.
Well, we're glad to have you. What's going on?
Well, somebody sent me, well, actually, I've seen it a couple places now, but since it's local in Washington, I was wondering if you could not talk about it, but maybe share it. The Board of Health on January 12th is having, what's it called? Like an online meeting about implementing certain things, possibly in the school districts. And there's some other
I get interventions, basically. Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out what we'll do. We just won't be in. We wouldn't be in schools. We got 3 kids, and 2 of them wouldn't even see a day in school. But again, yeah, it's really just I don't know how that should be a sign enough for people to realize that the world is. I mean, remember when they said 2 weeks, and now it's going on 2 years, and there's no sign of this going away.
Yeah. I just wanted to let people know, like, I got together with some other people, and I wouldn't use the word protest, but stood up for certain beliefs. And I think if enough people logged in and voiced their concerns, that it would help spread a message of, this isn't okay. It's never been okay. Don't do this, because I think the recourse would be, like with me, I don't know how to homeschool, but I would figure it out.
I would too. And at this point, with some of the stuff, when I even in kindergarten, I watched as they did school at home. I was really surprised at the stuff they were already pushing. That they asked my 5-year-old at the time who their parents put the ballot in the box for, and they said that they were doing it school wide. And I said, I commented, and I said that's BS. I said, this is Dad here. I said, so is this just your class? And he said, no, it's the whole school. And he goes, I don't want to do it. But it's something that they're doing, and they're doing it for a 5th grade project. And I said, oh, okay. And I was thinking, man, if that school had all of the information about what their parents, put their ballot in the box for, that could affect that child through all of school if you have the wrong person working as a teacher or working as a principal. I thought that, I mean, like, that's just why. They're kindergarten. And even in 5th grade, it's like, I understand teaching them about, how they supposedly are supposed to work, but it was just, on top of that, so many different things. They banned Dr. Seuss when all that stuff was going on, and said that you couldn't check out books with Dr. Seuss. It was just like, oh, if it was the book fair and if it was paid for by the state, they wouldn't do that. It's like, what is our world coming to? I mean, this isn't the same country at all. It's not the same world.
Sure not.
So you're local Washington as well, is that right?
Given from what I've taken from your show the last few years, yeah, I'm probably within 45 minutes, which is kind of cool. So,
well, man, we should meet up, especially do you have kids or how old are your kids roughly?
12 and 9.
Well,
yeah.
So right around there. So, hey, Well, I have your phone number. If I do something local, would you like me to give you a
can
call?
text me whenever. Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be cool.
All right. Well, thank you for calling in, Joe, and I appreciate your comments. Is there anything else you wanted to say before you go?
I just wanted to say thanks for doing what you do. It kind of motivated me to, get my own channel going, something entirely different, but it's fun. And, I'm not at 100,000 or anything, but I've met probably 10 or 15 people that I've communicated with, and we've exchanged stickers and stuff. So, YouTube's still a good place to hang out and put up content and meet awesome people like the Foogle fam. So take care, everybody.
Well, thank you so much, Joe. And I will, of course, pull up what we were talking about earlier, and we have linked it on the website so everybody can go there and see. Thank you so much, and have a great night. That was Joe, local here in Washington. It says this is the actual agenda item, right? And it's an online meeting via Zoom, of course, because can't have it in person. But, well, because the traffic would be bad, right? If they did a meeting this important in person, then they would have to drive through the traffic of the sold-out Dave Chappelle show, that is in person. Huh, yeah. Or the football game that everybody's packed into. All right. So, this will be linked there. If you're in Washington, I highly recommend. If you are in Washington and you have school kids, make sure to go over and check it out and at least do some simple research on that. And then, Adam, what about Kazakhstan? We covered that yesterday, Lisa. Yeah, lots of turmoil going on. They're pushing back. A lot of people are pushing back. The whole world is just going nuts. Moxie71, Johnny Fry Guy, what is going on? Thank you for gifting out Marfia badges. Lisa K, thank you so much. Paul Shaggy. And then have added that article there. And then we have, look at this, Dex. It was like, last night was China. Now it says Russia sends paratroopers to Kazakhstan to quell deadly unrest. So funny. Literally on the subject of that comment. It says Russia has sent paratroopers into Kazakhstan as part of an international peacekeeping force to quell deadly unrest in the Central Asian country, a military alliance of former Soviet states said on Thursday. Early Kazakh police said forces had eliminated tens of rioters in the largest city of Almaty as the unrest sparked by rising fuel prices boiled over into the biggest protests since independence in 1991. It said Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev had appealed for the intervention of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, a military alliance of Russia, Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, blaming foreign-trained T groups or gangs for the violent protest. So I guarantee you this has a bigger purpose and everything, as far as most people can't point to Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan on a map. But I promise this has something to do with something that is moving a ball forward in some political fashion, or something else is going on underlying. This has a greater purpose than you think. Everything.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Wait, I was going to say, one of the things that I would pay attention here is this is a country that has been relatively stable for the past 10 years. And just one topic of oil prices has basically turned the country upside down. And now troops are rolling in, paratroops are rolling in. As we see in the next article, what's happening to the authorities there in the streets. It is huge in that sense. And this used to be, a former Soviet state or territory, right? and it's since been, been on its own as an independent. It's been relatively stable. It hasn't had any issues, and now it's completely turned upside down. And of course, we're being told it's all over gas prices. So take that for what it's worth, and understand that both Russia and China are very vested in the outcome of that country because of its location and its former ties to the Soviets. But yeah, this is a really interesting turmoil. We've seen, uprisings here and there that are just, in the streets and doing stuff. This is, the entire government has pretty much been, taken down by the people over gas prices.
Well, it also makes you think about what could do that here. And by here, I mean where I'm at, where you're at in Europe or in Australia or in Japan. One thing that really just topples over and the straw that breaks the camel's back. This is possible. I bet you 5 years ago in Kyrgyzstan, or even last year, or I don't know, maybe in the last couple of years it's been raising. But 5 years in Kazakhstan, I bet you most people didn't think anything was going to happen. Nobody thinks it's going to happen here. And by here, I mean where you are right now. Wherever you're watching this, there are high possibilities of something going on. It's Murphy's Law. The world is not perfect. The world is very violent. So I hope people realize that you need to have your head out of the sand and realize that this is biblical. This has been coming for a long time. Second Amendment supporter, what's going on? They say French riots are over gas prices too. LOL. Oh, they can say whatever they want, right? Scotland is quiet. TV is their god. Big Chief Marf is in Washington. That's pretty good. Yes, I'm not in Kazakhstan, but I am in Washington stan. Kazakhstan. Yeah, I know.
Kazakhstan. Yeah.
I said Kazakhstan, didn't I? Sorry, but
yes, you probably made me say it because I hear you say it. Yeah, but it's Kazakhstan. Yeah,
my ex from long time ago was from Kyrgyzstan, so I say the Kyrgyzstan. But yeah, it's Kazakhstan. Sorry to get what is it? Borat's city wrong. We aren't in tribulation yet. The Antichrist has to be here first. Brian Keith Prepper. We only have a couple more years before that's possible. What's going on? Mimi Love, nice to see you here. Lady Green Eyes, Keeper of Knowledge, Nick Roth. Demons are having a power struggle. Charles Henderson. Casper Sparks says we're in Oregon stan. Russia was invited by Kazakhstan. Oh yeah, there's there's big money resources. There's things going on that most definitely they have vestments there. Anthony DeMaglio, Paul Shaggy, thank you. Eyes Wide Shut. CV is the distraction. Charles Henderson, the demons are the aliens Reagan and Bush spoke of, and we are facing a threat. We are complaining, and there are innocent people being massacred by Russia. It says we will all have to help each other to show humanity is possible. Nick Roth. The real us do. I like that. It's more than a thought exercise than anything to think and consider the answer, what it means to you. Exactly. MEM in Texastan. Oh, yeah. But yeah, obviously you can see this. 3 police had their heads removed. Okay. That's how crazy they say it's getting, right? As Putin flies in tanks. And then, of course, now paratroopers. It's just weird. We're hearing a lot about paratroopers. That creeps me out. And then Cadillac debuts inner space autonomous 2-seater concept cars at CES that features a single love seat. It sounds pretty cool. Let me see. I think that.
Yeah, just jump to the pictures on this. The seats swing out, so when you're getting in and out, and the roof opens up when you're getting in and out. But one of the pictures you can see the giant panel. So you're not driving. This is an autonomous vehicle. So this is the future. And CES was just finishing up in Vegas, so that's why there's a lot of car news and a lot of other electronics news. But you just basically lounge in this lounge seat watching, excuse me, this giant television while your car is transporting you.
This is pretty cool looking. Now hold on. And remember, they say by 2030 they want to have this be the majority of cars on the road is autonomous, not Cadillacs, but in general. Now there's only one picture that actually. Oh no, here we go. Yes.
Yeah, further down.
Oh my gosh, look at that. And then what? Does the screen show you the outside through cameras? You don't actually look outside anymore. See, they want everybody.
I think you're watching TV. I think it's entertainment.
Yeah, you're in the metaverse. You'll be driving from place to place, and you'll be in the metaverse.
Riding, not driving.
Yeah, that's right. You won't be driving. You'll be riding in the metaverse. Look at that thing. It looks really. I would love to have that thing in my house, just that car seat. But yeah, that's a 2-seater. And look, you have a place to put your feet. You basically lounge back. Even if this was the main route of transportation, this is still like the craziest, most awesome car ever. This is the Geordie car. It's got the visor, right? Geordie LaForge.
Here's what I don't understand. Like, they want to make autonomous vehicles like this, but we have buses and trains and planes that you don't drive, you ride in. Why don't they make those just as luxury as this? I mean, outside of the elite that get to ride up in a business class that's only on an intercontinental flight that's going to have some very luxurious bed in it. The rest of them, I mean, you're packed in like sardines.
Well, that's
so why are they making us think that this is the wave of the future when they could have done it already with buses, trains, and planes, and they don't?
No. This isn't the wave. This is the wave of the elite future. Okay, you're gonna see hard plastic backs of like Ubers, but the Ubers is gonna be autonomous, and you're gonna pay Uber directly, and Uber is going to be all autonomous, and Tesla or whatever company that's going to start these autonomous cab rides, that's going to take over. Uber is not going to be a thing. If you're an Uber driver right now, I would not have it be your long-term plan, because they're not going to have people driving around people. It's going to be robots driving around people. Don't believe me? Look at the long-term plan they're already putting into place from the World Economic Forum and all these other things that have this laid out. They have told us, too, what is changing, and they don't want people looking into it. Operation Liberty or Death says, much love to the Foogle fam. God bless. Stephen McMahon, prayers for your health. Both of you are too young to be sick. That is the truth. And then Lady Green Eyes, pray for each other. Give your love away to all people. Love you, Adam and Mrs. Marf, Mrs. Mod, Mrs. Dex, Mods, Dex, and Foogle fam. You are very loved and wanted to tell you as often as I can. Lady Green Eyes from Canada, thank you so much. And then can't say enough of the same to you. You've been here a long time now. I want to say 3 years.
It reminds me, you talk about the cabs. I'm thinking of the Johnny cab. Do you remember that? Total Recall?
Yes, I do. Yeah, and you guys, I might need to check on my little one. That sounds like something's going down. Either that or one of my children is going nuts up there.
They're practicing for autonomous cars.
Yeah, they're playing. Yeah, well, I hope that's not. Let me just make sure that's not
Flintstone style.
Let me just make sure that's not my wife like saying pounding on the roof or something, saying, "Hey, get up here." It's all good. Jack was hammering. He was hammering a dinosaur against the head of a Mr. Potato Head, and apparently was just kept hammering and hammering and hammering. So, anyways, making sure that it wasn't my wife like going, "Hey, get up here" or something, something bad. But it was totally fine. All right, that's when you're below kids. I told you it's live. Anything can happen. MEM, thank you from Texas. And then everybody over on D-Live, thank you everybody that supports over there. Thank you everybody that keeps the D-Live crew up. By the way, we have some, I want to say in the next week, I think that there's going to be a lot of big news as far as what is going on. I say some of this because I do have a couple of inside people at some of the big airlines, and there's supposedly some changes. I'm not going to say anything and put my foot in my mouth. Again, I try to only say something if I 100% know for sure, and I'm going to wait until they say something for sure as well. Also, we have military members saying that there's possible drills again on the West Coast. And I would love for anybody, if it's a public thing where it's out in the open, please get videos of that. Send it to marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. Okay, let's get our next caller on. We are running out of time, so we need to get Major Lee Stoned on.
And Adam, Major Lee is live.
Major Lee, you wanted to talk about Department of Homeland Security. Let's, what's going on?
Yeah. I'll keep it quick because I know you're running low on time. But if you hit that link that I gave Dex, it's basically a list of projects that they are actively kind of searching around, hitting up small companies to see about bids, right, to create technology. I figure that's probably a good way to look and see what's going on and what they have planned and what they're expecting. But some slightly alarming things on there, I thought. You kind of look through them. One thing I wanted to talk about specifically, though, on there was the 007, the one ending in 007.
Whoa. Mass fatality tracking system?
Yeah. It's specifically... they're looking for someone to develop a low-cost device to ensure that following an MCI, or mass casualty incident, they're looking for comprehensive detection and recovery details of people remains that can be documented at the point of discovery and tracked to document details of victim identification and law enforcement. Quote. And even more alarming, I suppose, is that they're looking to have this ready for deployment by September 1st of this year. I sent you and Dex an email a couple of times. I just resent it here again, kind of showing all of this and kind of the projected timeline piece by piece. But looking for, submission and qualification review is January 21st. So here in just a couple of weeks, and they're looking to have it ready to deploy, like I said, by September 1st.
Now, how did you get to the other part of this? The part you just read, how did you get to that description of the MFTS?
Sure. So, Pastor J.D. Farag, I know some of the Foogle fam watch his weekly prophecy updates. This was a couple weeks ago during his Sunday update that he read an email that he had received from a small company owner who had been in on this meeting, in on a meeting where they discussed this and kind of propositioned all these small companies, these small tech companies, to get this information, to get research and stuff. And so that's where I got this. And I would encourage anybody who's curious about what's going on in the world to check out his videos on every Sunday morning.
Did you see some of the other stuff here? And these, I'm assuming, have a general kind of deadline. A wearable detector for aerosolized chemical threats.
Yep.
Rapidly deployable countermeasures at protected perimeters and structures. That would be like checkpoints. Rapidly deployable protected perimeters and checkpoints. That sounds like our automated artificial intelligence distress alerts and monitoring. Like if nobody's there to push the button. What?
And look at the 003. I thought was fascinating.
Non-invasive and real-time detection of counterfeit microelectronics. Yeah,
Yep.
That's weird.
To make sure your chip isn't counterfeit, make sure it's on the level.
Wow. Broadband push-to-talk interoperability platform. Push-to-talk. Like
that
what?
Sounds to me like
that's like a
broadband-based walkie-talkies.
Why would you need that unless you have checkpoints? Like,
yeah, or it's like a walkie-talkie that isn't bound by a certain 8 miles or whatever. You could talk across the world.
oh, that is creepy. I'm so glad you got in on this show. Wow.
Real quick too, just because I know time is limited here. I'm in Seattle. I'm downtown actually as we speak. So yeah, if you set something up here, let me know, man. I am right there, 100%. As far as homeschooling here in Washington, make sure no matter where you are, really, no matter what state, that you look at the laws. Because I know here in Washington, you have to have a certain amount of college credit, and you have to meet a bunch of other qualifications before they'll let you homeschool your kids, to the point where it's almost like, how much homeschooling can you actually really do? Because they just control it all. California is really bad too.
That's insane.
If I understand it correctly. That
is insane. That'd be like, before I can even take my kid out, I would have to do something, and then they would be required to. They should undo that if they're going to require something else,
Yep. But they demand. They're your kids, but they want to teach your kids. They will teach your kids. Those are their kids to teach. Dang it.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, again, Major Lee Stone, man, that was mind blowing. Thank you so much for calling in. Is everybody as freaked out about that as I am? Like, that's nuts. Thank you, Major Lee. That's incredible.
It's scary, but this world is dead. It just doesn't know it yet. Things are coming up here real quick, and I think that a lot of trauma and a lot of bad things are kind of designed to make us fall out of love with the world, because it's headed in one direction. And someone else wants our heart. Someone else wants our love.
That's right. Major Lee, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. I did not catch this, so thank you. Oh, and then again, where did you read that part again? You said that it was on. Is there another source that we can get a link to that describes mass fatality?
A YouTube channel, JD, the letters JD.
But do they have
Farag.
sources? Do they have sources of where they're doing, or they're just making that part up?
It's hard to say. I think for a lot of stuff he does put sources in there, on their website, jdfarag.org. It's a church out of Hawaii, and he's got a pretty massive audience now. It's grown a lot, but he does weekly prophecy updates in his church. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I will do my due diligence and we'll try to find out more about it. Major Lee, you have a wonderful
absolutely.
night.
Please do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's insanity. You guys, this is nuts. The fact that they're look at everything on this list. There's not like 50 other things that are just related to general tech. Almost everything is very pointed. It says a step towards agent agnostic detection of biological hazards. Does this not paint a picture? Look through 01 through 011. Rapidly deployable like perimeters and structures, non-invasive and real-time detection of counterfeit microelectronics, broadband push-to-talk interoperability platform, detection of biological hazards, streamlined airport checkpoint screening for limited mobility passengers. Maybe it's not for the airport, folks. And then mass fatality tracking system. Next generation semiconductor-based spectroscopic personal radiation detectors. Field-forward diagnostics for select agent list toxins. Wearable detector for aerosolized chemical threats. Low-cost detection. Diagnostics for high consequence. Transboundary. Reportable animal diseases, particularly those with zoonotic propensity. I'm sorry, that's freaky. Dex, crazy stuff. I'm sorry, it looked like we still...
Yeah, Adam, that is. And that was great stuff from Major Lee, but that zoonotic is transmissible from animal to human, for those that don't know that word.
I assumed it was with animals to something, but from animals or with animals, but that's like
and they're trying to track it obviously from the port. So animal disease that's coming in. Well, I guess they would go both ways too, but obviously the problem is animal disease coming in that's mostly transmittable back to humans.
So zoonotic propensity, basically the ability for that zoonotic disease to transfer to humans. The ability to transfer from animal to humans. That is creepy. All right, now do you want to talk about some of the crazy stuff here?
Absolutely. So head over to marfooglenews.com and click on the thumbnail for the show and scroll down to web-only content. Find everything else that we couldn't cover. Lots going on there. Tucker goes off on some interesting things. You probably want to check out what he has to say. Obviously, the news was covered up today with stuff about the 6th. And the Pillow Man is in the news, as well as some other things that are going on with how they're trying to potentially prevent the former Prez from running again. So lots happening in that space. So go take a look. marfooglenews.com, click on web only content, find everything else we couldn't talk about, two-sided or too far leaning one way or the other. And if you're on YouTube, just scroll down or open up that description and hit that first link. It's right there. So easy for you YouTubers.
Okay, whether you liked or hated the guy, how can anyone believe I watched that thinking, oh my gosh, this is like a telenovela. They turned off the video and left the sound on for several minutes, and they're, grab your chairs if you have to defend yourself, and all. I'm like, you're saying that you're just going to forget the plan you've had in place for 100 years of evacuating people if anything happened when all of those people are sitting there? You're just going to sit there and wait until they slowly one of them gets the balls up to break a window, and then they start crawling in with their cow suits on. I mean, just, oh my God. That was a T attack. That is being compared to September 9/11. That's being compared to that. 4,000 deaths, right? Worse.
And we're
count.
about to cut over in about 10, 15 seconds.
Worse count than Pearl Harbor. That's supposed to, yeah. Chia Lisa, applause for open and free speak, share truth and help one another. That Gen X dude, thank you. That DHS has a training facility here, freaky, right under my nose. And Z Ezreal wanted to send this from the new year. Thank you from Switzerland. Really appreciate all your work. Hey, thank you guys. And again, make sure to join us over on the other channel. We probably have already flipped over. Make sure to go over to Marfoogle Jams on YouTube if you want to stay there, or join us on D Live for this outro. Thank you.